Great. Well, good morning, Bore da, everybody. Welcome to this Democratic Services meeting. Hopefully, as Rachel said, we've all recovered from last night's full council meeting. So I'm just going to read read the procedure notice. So, can I welcome all members and officers to this meeting of the Democratic Services Committee, which has been convened via Teams as a remote meeting. This meeting is being recorded and will be available to view on the Council's website as soon as practical after the meeting. Everyone participating in the meeting will be accessing it from remote locations. Please could everybody ensure that mobile phones are switched off to silent mode. Members and officers will have received an electronic copy of the agenda. I will ask officers to present a summary of the key points. For the record, the agenda can be viewed on the Council's website. Members and officers will be speaking at various points during the meeting, and those speaking may switch their microphones and cameras on at that point. But I would ask that, with the exception of myself as chairperson, and at all other times, you keep your cameras and microphones switched off, as this will help to minimize any background noise and interference and ensure that the connection remains as stable as possible. If any members or officers wish to raise a point or question, then should press the hands up icon on the screen at the top right hand side of the Microsoft Teams window, and I will come to you in order that I received requests. Please remember to lower your hand once you have finished speaking. The chat button has been disabled for this meeting. Please do not use your microphone until I invite you to do so. Officers from Democratic Services will be supporting the meeting, and we will be monitoring the use of microphones throughout its duration, and where necessary, we'll mute those not being used. I would also ask officers to introduce themselves as and when I invite them to speak during the course of the meeting. They too should ensure microphones and cameras are switched off when not in use. I will now proceed to agenda business. But before I do so, just a little disclaimer. I am suffering a little bit from a rather nasty chesty cough. If I'm not making myself clear, don't be shy. I'm more than happy to repeat myself. A little bit bunged up, so a little bit caveat there. So please feel free. If you need me to clarify anything, please do so. So without further ado, on to the agenda. The first item of the agenda is apologies for absence. I'm only aware of one apology, and that is from Councillor Ian Spiller. Am I right with that?
Yes, Chair. I've also had apologies from Councillor Elaine Winstanley. She said she may be able to join later, but she's got a commitment this morning she couldn't get out of. And Councillor Sean Aspey has given his apologies as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Rachel. Do any members, are any members aware of any further apologies? Oh, I see that there's Councillor, Martin, would you like to take the floor?
Yeah, thanks, Tim. I just wanted to check with Rachel. Is there a quorum to this committee?
Yes, there is. It's a quarter, so it would be 4. So we have to make sure we've got 6 in today, so we're okay.
Oh, fine. Good. Okay.
Good question, Martin. And yep, that's great. Okay. So if there's no more apologies, I'll move on to declaration of interests. Is there any declarations of interests? I'll take silence as no, and we'll move on. And can I have an approver, item 3, approval of the minutes? This is approval of the minutes for the last meeting, which was on the 7th of July, 2022. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please?
Yeah, I'll move.
Who was that? Sorry. Oh, that was Graham.
Yeah.
Thank you, Graham. Yeah. Anybody else, please, to second them?
Yeah, I'll second, Martin.
Thank you, Martin. All good to go? Any comments?
Would it be okay if I just come in on just slightly on the minutes, if that's okay? I just wanted to pick up on the comments that members made in relation to the forward work programme. So obviously members in the minutes asked for the member development report, which actually is here today for us to consider. There was mention as well of members having a report on the councillor portal. Unfortunately, at the moment, that data we are chasing at the moment, but there are huge resource issues at the moment in HR, and they're really struggling to get this information. It's the portal team and the customer service team and HR in general and ICT. So they're struggling to get them, not HR, sorry, ICT. So we are chasing that data on the portal, and I'm hoping Martin Morgans has said that we're looking towards a report hopefully for the next meeting. I think it's in February. So then we can look maybe at something in detail on the portal. There is a proposal also on the portal. There was a proposal in one of the meetings that some members may have attended to have a working group of members to look at the portal and to kind of, be tested at the various stages because it's still in development, etc., and to look at it and monitor it. And I have discussed with Martin and Laura the possibility that that might come from this committee. You had the working group over the Constitution. It worked really, really well. So if you'd like that, we can bring that to the next committee for a proposal or set it up in the meantime, and we can take that forward then as a little bit of a working group from this committee again. Thank you,
Excellent. Thank you, Rachel. I'm just wondering, excuse me, is it worthwhile having a forward work plan as a continuous standalone item on the agenda?
Yes, that's exactly what I was looking at actually, and so that's what I was hoping really. If members can, start thinking of some ideas, and some things that you really would like to look at in terms of for this committee to develop the forward work program going forward, I would like to have a standing item at the end then of the agenda that we can revisit each meeting and really develop. Because I think I'd like to do a lot of work with this committee and start to grow it a lot more now going forward. So please feel free to email me if you've got any items, and there might be stuff falling out of today's meeting, particularly in relation to member development, because that's a key part of your role really is in terms of member development. So yes, if there's anything else you can think of in the meantime, and then I'll put a report then starting from February. Thanks, Chair.
Excellent. Thanks, Rachel. Yeah, and I think your comments about the portal are quite good, actually, because I think there's now been sufficient time for it to bed in. Perhaps the last meeting we had in July would have been far too premature to discuss the portal. I think every member now, without exception, has probably had a go at the portal now, and no doubt every member of this committee have got probably some valuable points on improving the portal. So yeah, I think that would be a good item and an item to have quite soon, actually. But yeah, moving forward then, let's get on to the next excuse me, item. That's member induction and development program. Who is delivering the report? Rachel, would that be you? Sorry, I didn't catch that. You froze a little bit.
Oh yes, it's me. Yes.
If you'd like to go ahead, that'd be great.
Lovely. Thank you, Chair. So as members can see, the purpose of the report today is to provide the committee with an update on the delivery of the Member Induction Programme 2022 following the elections, to also present an outline of the proposed member development then going forward for the autumn period up till December, and then ask the committee to really consider further topics. The plan is then really we look at autumn up to December, and then in December and January we do a lot of work with members then in terms of developing. We do surveys, we do personal development reviews. If members want one-to-one discussions and see what their needs are, and then we send out, as I said, a survey to members, and we also offer things like and consider peer mentoring. So that's going forward. As you can see in the report, this is a key role of this committee, is to develop the authority's member support and development strategy, ensure members have access to a reasonable level of training and development as described in the member development strategy and in the charter, and ensure the members that have the suitable budget to cover it. And then I've mentioned in the report about what we've had in the past, so it's a bit of looking back. We've had obviously the very in-depth member induction following the elections, very intense. We've also had the marketplace event, we've had DC committee training events, and some of those, all of those, just to let members know, all DC training ones, they are open to all members. They're not just limited to the DC, to the Development Control Committee. And then it goes on, as I said, about future development in Appendix C. I've also mentioned about the e-learning, and if I can really try and kind of get you as a committee to really encourage other members to really get online and look at the mandatory e-learning modules. At the time of drafting this report, I didn't actually have the update or the where we were on these, but I've since had that. And there's very few members who have actually gone online now and done these e-learning modules, and they are mandatory modules that we need to do. It's a bit difficult because I know the internet has been removed from your computers since you've had the new laptops. But I did send out a learning and development website link, which I'm trying to encourage members to kind of bookmark at the top of your page, so then you can revisit it as and when needed then to do the learning modules. But I will repeatedly send that link out then to try and encourage more members to get on the website and do those. So really the purpose today is to consider the report and note the appendices, and really to identify any additional member development topics or briefings for inclusion in the future development and prioritise them really in terms of need. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Rachel. Yeah, just having a little look at the report. We had a chat prior to this meeting, of course. I did send out a little message to members of my group to see if they had any comments about the induction period, and in particular the Meet the Team Bridgend event. I didn't have much feedback, and that was probably because of such a large agenda yesterday, and perhaps that gazumped the comments a little bit. But that being said, a number of members of the group did say that they found the Meet the Team Bridgend event very valuable and informative. Quite a sizable number of members said that. I unfortunately couldn't attend that, which was regrettable because I have heard good things from that. So that was, from my perspective, that was very well received. Just having a little look at the training, and I think it's fair to say that the training, in part, that there's gaps in attendance, and I include myself in that, for that matter, really. And I think, from my perspective, one of the main reasons is some of the training for members who have served second and third, fourth plus terms may have felt that the training wasn't applicable to them. But certainly from my perspective, I don't know it all, and there's some training that I would love to have attended. But I think when you become a member, that starting period, people are coming from you from all angles, I think, and it's quite a demanding period, I think. So I'm wondering if we could perhaps consider the timeliness of training, and perhaps it could be done at a more prolonged period. And I know officer time is valuable, and we've got to be family friendly, but perhaps we could consider the timeliness of training and maybe the accessibility of training as well. And in the little chat that Rachel and I had, I did feel it might be appropriate that we come up with some sort of survey that could go out to all members. Just seeing how valuable, it wouldn't be a very long survey, but how appropriate they found the training, how accessible they found it, and really any gaps in the training. So I'd like to open that up to members to see if they think that would be a good idea. If they do think it's a good idea, what questions they think should be on that. And indeed, if you've got any other ideas or comments on the report, and I see that Councillor Martin Hughes has got his hand up. So Martin, I'll give you the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. I've just got a few comments from the perspective of a new member. I'll take the marketplace event first. I think it would have been good to have seen a few more members there. I think given the amount of time that went into it, the officer time, that would have been good. But with myself, I think had I known how many people were available, I think I would have given myself more time to have gone there. I treated it as a sort of drop-in event, whereas in fact I probably could have used the whole 2 hours to spend going around seeing everyone, and I felt a little frustrated at the end that I didn't manage to get round and see everybody. So perhaps possibly next time just a bit more structure to get people moving as well, so we can get around. I think also that next time around, if that event is held quite soon after the elections, I think time had moved on a bit, and it didn't quite have the currency maybe that it would have had if it was in late May or June. In terms of feedback generally, in terms of the training sessions, I think the ones that worked best were those that had some interactivity with them. one that sort of stands out is the social services presentation that was given early on. There are a lot of member involvement there, and people seem to have a buzz and came away with it. There were also some particularly good sessions organised with governance training and Consultants Limited. The ones that I attended were particularly good. So it's good to buy in these courses as well. Yeah, occasionally with the training events, I found some members, maybe myself as well, do tend to go a bit off-piste and lose the theme of what the training's about. And I think those sessions where there was a good firm chair there to bring people together and to structure it were a lot more successful. I think we got a lot more out of the limited time that was available there, rather than going off at tangents, which happened in a number of cases. So a couple more points, Tim, if that's okay. I don't want to take up all the time. I think we have to accept that there is a difficulty faced by working members and being able to attend these sessions. I feel myself particularly advantaged. I'm now retired, and so I'm able to do that and schedule my time around it. And I think those working members who at least go to the take the time and effort to look at the recorded sessions in their own time. I think we have to recognise that, and if there's some way that we can sort of note that sort of activity as well, because it's equally important, I think, as long as people avail themselves of that training. So I think overall, in terms of my experience, I found it very good, very worthwhile, and so I'm really glad that it was laid on. I think the programme was well scheduled and very comprehensive. I can't really think of any particular subject areas that were lacking or that we need to add on. And finally, just to say about the survey, there is a survey being arranged for December. And I just hope now, and I think members of this committee can also encourage our colleagues to make sure that we get a really good response this time, because survey fatigue and the rest of it, I think while people make points in meetings, when it actually comes to committing themselves 5-10 minutes getting something done, it doesn't always happen. And we had the situation back a couple of months ago when we canvassed the views of members about the start times of meetings, and that had to be extended for some inexplicable reason, because people didn't respond to something that's fundamentally important, so I think there will be a job of work as far as we as committee members are concerned as well, in twisting a few arms and making sure that they respond to the survey. So thanks very much for your indulgence, Tim.
Chair,
Not at all.
come back in on a few points. Would that be okay?
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, just going back to what you said first, Chair, in terms of the returning members. Yes, I should have mentioned that in the presentation in my report, but I did. In that appendix, you'll see that I have actually highlighted those as blue. There's a slight difference in the colour of the names. So yes, obviously for returning members, some of the initial training, particularly the really initial ones, the welcome briefing, the Microsoft Teams, those types of ones. Obviously, the returning members wouldn't necessarily have attended those, so that's where you'll see the difference in attendance on that appendix, because obviously they've done it 1 term, 2 terms, some of them, so you wouldn't expect in terms of that. So I wanted to highlight that. And excuse me. Then in relation to Councillor Hughes' points on the marketplace event, actually we've had contact from the chief exec, and CMB have actually requested that they now hold monthly surgeries for members. So we're looking to organise those hopefully starting in November. So it'll be one directorate each month. I think we're going to hold them in Civic, in the committee rooms, and they're going to be, I think is it 4 o'clock, I think? So yeah, starting at 4 o'clock or 4:30. So they're a little bit later to allow working members to attend. So I think it's going to be 4:30 till about 6ish, where members will be able to drop in, and very similar to the marketplace then, where it's one directorate per month. There'll be some officers there. I'm not sure who exactly it's for CMB to decide who exactly they want. But we'll advertise that obviously with members and let them know prior to the surgery appointments. And it is just, again, a drop-in session to chat with some of the officers to go over any issues, not necessarily, as I said, the referrals type subjects, but obviously to get a bit of more information from some of the officers. So it has really, the marketplace has been very successful in terms of prompting that to go forward now for the future. So I'm hoping that members will really start to engage with those surgeries over the coming months, and we can develop them even more so going forward. And yes, in terms of the governance training that that Beth Evans did, they've been really useful. We've had really good feedback on those, definitely. And interestingly, Councillor Hughes, the social services presentation, you say, yeah, again, we had very good feedback on that. So I think it was Steve Berry, wasn't it, who did all these different things, and we jumped into different areas and a lot of member involvement. So I need to have a little bit of a chat with him and to see what he was using and the different things he was using for his training. And then I can maybe develop that into some of the training sessions for members going forward. So thank you for that. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Rachel. And yeah, I think the comments about before I bring Richard in as well, instead, the comments about the drop-in session, I think that sounds a brilliant idea. That sounds really useful. We said a lot of comments on the difficulties for working members. Let's not also forget those with young families as well, because that's another challenge as well. And one of my concerns about some of our meetings, not so applicable to training, of course, is the pre-meetings tend to be 8:45, 9:00, and that's really problematic if you've got drop children off. Anyway, I do digress a little bit. So yeah, Richard, would you like to speak on this?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I've been a long-standing member, and I think as we go along, we've got to learn. And I agree, perhaps they drop in. I didn't go to it, Rachel, because obviously I had other things on as well. And that's where I think a lot of the problems we need to look at it. We don't loop things with other meetings. So you've got a meeting, and then perhaps you have to leave that meeting to go to another meeting. So that doesn't look good either. And I think what we should be doing is getting back into the chamber, face to face with officers. It's more productive because you can ask questions. There's a theme as a committee that you are together on Teams. It doesn't work like that. You're far away from it all. And I just think I think the themes of what you're trying to learn is also a good policy for us to look at. Because sometimes you look at things and they're negative. The officers are not enthusiastic about what they're talking about either, Rachel. So it comes across then to members as, oh, okay, you know what I mean? So I think short, sharp interaction with officers is more productive than having a 3-hour meeting where you're just in the doldrums. It's too long. I think that's what we're going to get down to. Members' times are very predictive. You know what I mean? You can't be doing everything, but you've got to make it so it works for the authority and the member. So the shorter the meeting, the more productive it is. I think it's better for everybody. That's all I want to say, Chair.
Good points. Couldn't agree more. Would you mind lowering your hand, Richard?
I come back in on that, Chair, if that's okay?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yes, I appreciate what you're saying, Councillor Granville, and yeah, in terms of the the length and everything, and that we can look at. The difficulty is in terms of obviously some of these you say about getting them in the chamber, and I think we would, whatever training sessions we do now going forward, we would look at either remote or hybrid. There's a difficulty at the moment. Unfortunately, we're going to have to look at the training sessions just over the next few months because we have got resources issues within my team to support them hybridly. It takes more to support hybrid than it does actually for remote. But the other thing is actually we tend to get sometimes more attendance by having it remote. And what we're finding is some of these training sessions we've been running lately and where we have had them hybrid, we haven't had very good attendance in the chamber, unfortunately. So it's something that I'm going to monitor over I'm not stopping the hybrid sessions at all, the training sessions over the next few months, but we're certainly going to monitor it over the autumn period to see how it's working and to see really whether there's themes that members are coming in for, or whether there's times members are coming in for, etc., more than others, for example. And then that will help to develop the schedule going forward then for next year and even further forward. But yeah, it's certainly a balance. It's trying to address, as we talked about, it's trying to address members availability for working members, for those with families. trying to address whether it's easily for them remote or they'd rather actually come in and be face to face. And also the subject, you're right, in terms of subject matter as well, it certainly matters. I know, for instance, the chief executive's running one coming up now. If you look in the schedule, there's one on City Deal. And the chief exec is really trying to I've got to get the message out to members for that one, that he would really rather that one be face to face. We will have it accessible remotely, obviously. We have to, but it would be a better when we've got external officers coming in, forced from the City Deal, from Cardiff. So that one would really, I think, be more beneficial face to face. So certainly the subject matter, we've talked about some of them can be interactive, but this one, for example, is really about getting the information across, having that engagement and having that discussion in the meeting, and making sure members are informed. But it is looking at the subject content and what's appropriate then for that session, I think. So some further work we need to do, I think, on that. That'd be great.
Thank you, Richard. But just kind of come back in, Chair. I think like this morning, I've got a meeting with officers in DC at 11 o'clock. It's a timed meeting. I have to attend because of things that the officers need me to do. So it's things like that. You know what I mean? You've got to look at all the aspects, and I think the City Deal is a fantastic opportunity to grab that by the scruff of the neck for all members to get into it, because you always hear, what does that do with this, that, and the other? But I agree. It's hard to say, Rachel, how people attend these meetings. But as I said, it's how officers portray it as well. If they've got an interest in it and they're enthusiastic, it comes across better than somebody just giving a flat thing,
Agreed.
But
yeah.
but Chair, I'll give my apologies now. I will be leaving before 11 o'clock because obviously I've got officers, about 5 or 6 officers, and I can't waste their time as well. But I do apologise, Chair.
No, that's quite all right. Thank you for your points as well, Richard. I think what I've learned since being elected in 2017, I don't actually think there is a convenient time for members to meet. It's always going to be inconvenient for somebody, because a lot of people call for meetings in the evenings, and some of us are on town and community council. Some of us are governors. I'm governor of 2 schools, and that's when they meet. So it's a real headache, isn't it, really? Let's be honest. But going forward, I do think the hybrid approach is the most sensible and the most equitable for all members, especially those that work. So hopefully that will continue. And I personally want to try and attend as many as possible in person. A couple of little teething problems for yesterday, but going forward, I hope to attend in person. Do we have any excuse me, any more comments, questions, points of clarification? We don't know.
Yes, Tim.
Oh yes, we do.
Sorry.
Mal?
Yeah. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Chair. Things are so different down there now. I have to congratulate Rachel and the team. All right, this was never like this years ago, with all the training sessions, all right, and the discussions we have. All right, and there's been a giant leap forward down there, Rachel. You should be congratulated. You're never going to please everybody all the time. You're always, as you just said, you're always going to get somebody who can't do this or can't do that. For remote, I think it's a wonderful thing. I really do. Working from home, all right, it's wonderful. Think of the climate change or the petrol you're using. We as councillors save money on parking fees, because it's £18 a month I was paying, all right, parking, all right. I don't have to do that now, thank goodness. But there are benefits. And I do think, as you said, Rachel, the attendance on remote meetings are far greater than what the hybrid meetings are. So as you say, we'll never be able to please everybody all the time.
Yeah, I think it's
Thank
the
you,
balance,
Chair.
isn't it? It's the balance of making it available
the
to
balance.
many as possible, and hybrid is that, that way between, really, so people can attend remotely or in person. But as I said, it's balancing it for us in terms of the resourcing. The same will be for committees, to be fair, because we're going to have to look at the attendance in person, because again, as I said, the resource issue is more intense for a hybrid meeting, for staff to come in and support the hybrid. And it just depends on what attendance we get, really, in person. So we will monitor over the next few months, and probably another report on it to yourselves in February to see how it's going, really, in terms of attendance, and the comparison between those attending in person and those attending remotely, and then that will help inform then the development schedule going forward.
Graham, please.
Thanks, Chair. I agree with what Malcolm said, in as much as it's horses for courses. I mean, just to give you a flavour, for me now, I'm sat here with my laptop that I'm looking at you on, but the papers for the meeting are on a 24-inch monitor in front of me, so I can read them. Yesterday, I was faced with the decision whether to go into Civic or not, and it was a no-brainer for me. I wasn't going to print off hundreds of pages, and it's easy to say, well, you could have different panes open on your laptop, but they've got to be readable, and they're not readable for everybody. And so this works really well for me. And yesterday in particular, I was able to, have all the papers open in front of me, as well as take part in the meeting. There's no reason why I can't drive into Civic and park once I've figured out how to get my badge to let me in underground, which is another story. But having the facility to be able to attend the meetings without necessarily turning up in person is a huge bonus, I think. And I wouldn't want us to get to the stage where we're actively discouraging people from using the remote facility. So that's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Graham. I think there's general consensus there, horses for courses, and to have that flexibility. I'm quite keen to steer back into the training aspect of this, really. Robert, have you got a question that's around about that, or is it more about the meetings? I think we've done that now.
No. Yeah, hi. Yeah, I'll be brief. Completely agree pretty much with what Councillor Walter just said. I think the hybrid is great for the accessibility. Training wise, from a new member's perspective, I think it's been pretty fantastic, to be honest. They're arranged at times that I haven't been able to attend everything as I would have liked to, but I think it's been as much as been done as possible for me to be able to. Just sometimes circumstances doesn't allow. I think to go back to a point made earlier in relation to watching back, because I have watched a lot back that I wasn't able to attend, whether there's some sort of log for that or whether that gets recognised in some capacity, I think would be useful. So I think Rachel might have mentioned previously a portal of some description that we could perhaps log into and then watch some of those sessions back and perhaps at least have the attendance credited for that to some degree. But yeah, no, I found it really good, and the surgery idea sounds fantastic, because that's probably been one of my biggest fears with regards to hybrid. Whilst it's great for a number of reasons, which we won't go over again because I think everyone's outlined that, it's that sort of the connections that you make with people in with the people in the various departments, and how that sort of lends itself to working better together. So yeah, I think it's been pretty good, and I just think the ability to watch some of the training back and perhaps be noted as attending in some capacity would be useful. Cheers.
Thanks, Robert. That's really useful as a new member to have your perspective.
So
of course, yeah, go.
Yes. So in terms of the learning development website, it is there. As I said, they have got the e-learning modules on there already. There is past training from previous years actually on there. There's council briefing sessions as well that are uploaded there. We are developing it now. Mike's actually going to be leading in the project over the next few months. But unfortunately, it has been slightly delayed, as I said, due to staff and resources. I'm not sure whether many of you are aware, but Andrew Rees has actually retired from the team. So we are a staff member down, and we're recruiting at the moment. So hopefully that we'll be in a better position soon. But yes, hopefully Mike Pittman is going to be looking at developing the learning development website, and we're actually going to hopefully revamp it a bit, get all the recordings online, so then you can look at them. But I'm certainly going to speak to the HR and find out from the learning development team whether there's a way where by watching it there is a recording. Hopefully it can link in to Trent then, and then I can pull off the data to say who's watched the watch, and then that will add to members' attendance then. So I will certainly explore that after this meeting. Thanks.
Great. Any more questions? No, that's good. So taking on board, I think Martin Hughes's first point about survey fatigue. I'm pretty convinced actually that my original idea of surveying members probably won't be that appropriate, especially with other surveys coming up in the pipeline. I think so. So generally, I really like Robert's idea about a portal sort of thing, and perhaps some sort of email could go out to members with almost like a resume, if you like, of current training that has gone on so far, to act as a bit of a aid memoir, if you like, where members could select these training courses. I think that would be quite useful. So also there's a lot of popular opinion about the drop-in events. I agree. I think that's a really good idea, and that should be encouraged. And get a strong flavour that we want to continue with a hybrid approach. Really, is there anything really that I've missed there that members think is really pertinent for Rachel to highlight, or have I summed it up quite well?
I think you've summed it up quite well, Chair.
Marvellous.
You've summed it up.
Marvellous. Thank you all.
It's a wonderful idea.
If there's anything, any items that members think, oh, that might be useful, going forward, no suggestion is going to be rejected. And the thing is, you might be the one person thinking of it, but there may be a lot of other members who are thinking, actually, I could do with that training as well. And that's really what we want to get the member development. We can put things on for you. The directors can say, I want to do this with members. I want to do this presentation. I want to do this briefing session. I want to do this training. But really, we need the information from you. What do you feel? I know sometimes it is a case of you don't know what you don't know, but if there's some area particularly that's come up in a committee where you think, I'm not sure of that, even if it's a simple briefing, as I said, in terms of they brought up a strategy and you're not aware of that strategy or the project behind it, or etc. There's a lot of this that happens in scrutiny, for example, where you're presented with draft strategies, draft plans, and you haven't necessarily got the background, and you won't have the time in scrutiny committee to get all that. So if there's anything like that, where you'd like a briefing session on it, even small as something like that, just a 45-minute, an hour briefing session where you can discuss it. We'd rather take it out of something like a scrutiny committee rather than spend time in the committee going over what it is. So then you've got the time in the committee to really dig down into it and scrutinise it effectively. So yes, no suggestion is a bad one. Anything that members can think of that they would like going forward for the future development, we would welcome. It's great. It's better if it's tailored to your needs, really, than us telling you what you need.
I was going to make a comment, but Dave is going to say something, so I'll let you in, Dave.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Rachel. One thing I did find, obviously since May and being a new elected member of BCBC, everything to me has been done hybrid till now. And I did find yesterday the first meeting in the chamber rather overwhelming in a respect, as there was no, as you went in, there was no seating layout. Yes, I know we had one emailed to us, but it could have been like when you go into a wedding, they have the seating layout put up for you. Although, admittedly, there was plenty of room there. But there was nobody there sort of giving instructions on buttons and cables and how the desk lifted up. And for me, being totally new, the only time I'd been in the chamber before was to collect my laptop, and to go in, it was a bit scary, for want of a better word. But it would have been nice if we could have gone down and maybe had a bit of instruction as to where the charging cable was and how things are going to turn out, and you have to press a button for the microphone, because nobody had told me these things. And I'm getting on a bit, and Alzheimer's might be creeping in, so it could have been beneficial to me. I don't know how the members feel, but I think that might have been a good one, but we've overcome that at the moment. So hey ho, let's move on and look forward to the next one. And one of the reasons I haven't come down this morning is, and I have to apologise for my lateness, but I've just been to have my flu jab. So that's why I was a bit late joining the meeting. But that's all I've got to say. And, whether it'll be beneficial to anybody else, I don't know. But thank you very much for listening.
Can I just say, Councillor, my sincere apologies. You must have been missed, because there was Nimi and I running around trying to find members and trying to make sure that everyone was familiar with the buttons, with the microphones, with plugging the laptops in, etc. And I sincerely apologise. I was kind of in and out, as Nimi was, and we were really trying to catch as many members as we can to go through it with them. And you must have simply been missed, unfortunately. So I do sincerely apologise for that.
No, I think you come up and said, have you found the cable? And by then I'd already done it. But it shouldn't have been done on the day, basically. I think it would have been beneficial if you could have had an hour with all new members who wanted to go in the chamber, have a look around, and feel at home being there. It's something maybe it's not going to happen for another few years, but maybe it could be noted for the next one. But thank you very much for listening.
There still could be some members that haven't been in the chamber. They didn't attend yesterday, so I will pick that up and make sure I'll invite them in.
But thank you for listening. Thank you.
Good points, Dave. I think, a good opportunity might have been when you actually collected your laptop. Actually, if you're in the chamber then, and there's IT professionals there giving you your laptop, they could have perhaps, going forward, that's something we could learn. They could have given you a quick run through where to put your charger point and all that business. And so going forward, maybe a little recommendation there for Rachel to pass on to our technical staff.
And I would like to thank everyone for the help that I had yesterday. And you were all under pressure. You were running around like I'm not going to say what I'm going to say, but you were very busy, and appreciate everything you've done. Thank you very much. Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, and I logged in virtually, and I from my perspective, I thought it ran very smoothly actually. And I know there are a couple of other little complications that were beyond control as well. So I won't go into it, but staff dealt with that incredibly well as well. Any other comments? No. So I think members agreed that we summed it up quite nicely. Don't need to note anything, propose anything, or second anything, do we? Really, I suppose, do we? Or
I picked up everything, Chair. Picked up
good
points for going forward, so that's really, really great and really beneficial. Thank you.
Marvelous. Moving on. Next, item number 5: the Independent Remuneration Panel for Wales Draft Annual Report. Rachel, would you like to present this?
Thank you, Chair. Let me just pull the report up. Yes, so the purpose of the report today is to present the Draft Independent Remuneration Panel for Wales Annual Report 23-24 to the committee. This is for you to provide comments on the content of the report as part of the consultation process. As the report states, the Independent Remuneration Panel Wales have published its draft annual report, setting out its determinations for the year 23-24. And is out to consultation at the moment, and any comments then need to be submitted by the 1st of December 2022. In terms of the role, obviously it's for members to look. I've tried to summarize and pull out. We're quite lucky this year, they have actually condensed it down quite considerably. Previously it's been a lot longer, but what they've said this year is they've tried to focus on what has changed from last year's and pulled that out for the reports before you today. So if you want to see anything else in relation to the IRP reports, it would be worthwhile having a look at last year's one. But then these are the only changes. Otherwise, what was in last year's report stands. So in summary then, 4.2, they made changes to the basic salary for elected members, determination 1. There's also changes to the salaries paid to senior civic and presiding members of principal councils. And they're listed then so that you can see in the different groups. We're in Group B. In Bridgen, so those are the salaries there for the various bands that have been amended. There's a change to Joint Overview Scrutiny Committee's determination 3 then, just a minor one then, to be honest, and nothing else has changed apart from the actual just change in the salary for the chair. And then there's relation to payments to fire and rescue authorities, because obviously the local authority plays a part in that, and those are listed. So apart from those, as I said, everything else that was in last year's report still stands. But if members have any comments on these changes at all, please let me know and we can take them forward then, and we'll submit them then to the panel. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thanks for that, Rachel. Looks pretty comprehensive for me. I don't really have that many questions really. I just noticed. I don't recall reading previous reports actually on this, but I noticed there's banding Group A, B, and C. Is that a new thing, or has that always been done?
No, it's always been.
That's it, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense, kind of, because obviously size of authority. Yeah, I don't have any comments, I must say, for this, but I'm happy to take questions from the floor. Graham, you're first.
Thanks, Chair. I'll just try and lower my hand. I'm presuming, Rachel, that we don't have to declare any interest on this because it's come from external, and it's not one where we're voting for a pay rise. So to get the declaration of interest out of the way, but I was interested that you say that it's out for consultation because it means we can make observations. I'm not entirely comfortable, if I'm really honest, that basic council allowances should be going up in the current climate. On the one hand, excuse me, yes, there's a cost of living crisis. On the other hand, I don't think it's a good look for after a significant increase last year, albeit I wasn't a member, to see another one this year just doesn't feel right to me in terms of what constituents might think. I'm interested in what other people's views are, but if there was a consensus, I think what you're saying, Rachel, is that we can feed back that we don't think it's appropriate through council, presumably before going back to the IRPW. And
it
that's
doesn't actually go to council, it just goes straight from the Democratic Services Committee to the
okay. So that's my thoughts really, Chair, that it's not a good look, and I'm welcome if you do discussion on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Graham. Yeah, I share your concerns, especially in light of the sizable increase from the previous term. So yeah, I wasn't quite familiar what the purpose of discussing this was, that we actually feed into the panel. Is that right, Rachel?
Yes, any comments feed into the panel's consultation then.
Right. Okay. That's a bit clearer for me. Okay. So Martin, you're next, please.
Well, thanks, Tim. I think I think the issues I was going to raise have been addressed, so I'll leave it for the moment.
Thank you. Mal, you got anything else as well?
Good, Chair. You haven't got to take the rise, don't forget. Councillors can opt out of that rise if you want to, all right? This is the first rise for many, many years, all right? And the last rise, I think this is only the second one. Am I right, Rachel? Yeah.
Sorry.
And many councillors did not take that rise years ago, all right? Many of us didn't take it, all right? And what annoys me is when there is a rise for councillors, articles in the paper, all right? Okay, condemning us. It's not, we didn't ask for it.
Mm.
We didn't ask for it. It's a Welsh Government recommendation, all right? Okay, I see nothing in the paper when the majority of councillors never took the last rise, myself included. I hadn't a rise for 5 or 6 years. And all of a sudden this has come out, all right? Okay, before the cost of living thing. Yeah, it's up to councillors. If you want to take it, you take it. You've got the option to opt out. So when people can condemn you for taking it, you've got the answer. No, I didn't take it. And it's up to you if you want to take it. And another thing is on remuneration. I honestly believe that the Democratic chairman should be paid. I find it embarrassing in the chamber when chairs come around, okay, and then nobody puts their hand up to be a Democratic chair. Why? Because it's not paid, all right? And I've done it once, I think I've done it twice, all right? Because it's embarrassing sitting there. And I honestly believe that the Democratic services have moved on a lot since the days when we give in to press releases that the Democratic Service chairman should not be paid. And I honestly believe that us as councillors, all right, us sitting here, we know the work the chairman does, we know the work he goes through, you know, to chair these meetings, and he should be paid for it. Thank you.
Yes, if I can just come in, Chair, on the thing, as the report states, it was last year, as I said, they reset the basic salary to align with the 2020 annual survey of hours and earnings, the ASH, as they said, published by the Office of National Statistics. So really, what they've done with the salaries is there has been, Councillor Malcolm James is right, there was an imbalance. So they have tried to address that imbalance that has arisen between the basic salary of members of principal councils and the average salaries of their constituents. So as I said, it's not something that's been specifically done for by the panel. It's not them doing it. They've literally used the Office of National Statistics data to try and realign the member salaries there.
Excellent. Any other questions? So just summarising. Oh, hang on, we got one. Rob, would you want to come in? Yep.
Hi, yeah. Sorry for the late hand there.
All right.
Right, just to go back, you can opt out. You can opt out of that, can you, Rachel? Or is it a case of you can donate it to charity? Because but MPs, for example, I don't think they can opt out. I think they say they donate it to charity, the excess that they get. Is that you can actually opt out of that? Can you? That seems administratively complicated.
I'm not entirely sure. I believe you can opt out.
Yes, Rachel, I could help on that. So. I did on one occasion. Yeah. Yes, you can opt out. Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. I suppose it's very difficult. I mean, I don't really, us as a sort of relatively small committee, it's difficult to talk on behalf of all the other 50 members, isn't it? So I do have a personal opinion. I sort of probably aligned with Councillor Walter's initial comment, but equally there is a balance to argue against. Inflation's over 10% at the moment. So in real terms, it's actually, more like a 5-6% reduction. And then obviously arguments about, the sort of people you want to attract. But anyway, my only real comment was A, you can opt out as interesting, and B, I'm not really sure how sort of vehemently I want to get across my point, given that I don't want to sort of speak for the other 50 members really, and it's not a sort of that's it really. Cheers.
Any questions? So I think to sum up really, to see if we got the right flavour here really, that members generally and in principle feel that given the cost of living crisis and the undeniable difficulties that many people in the county borough are experiencing, it on face value appears to be inappropriate to have this pay rise for members. However, it is a matter for personal members to decide whether they feel that it would be appropriate to accept this pay rise, and also that we accept personal circumstances where it may be appropriate and desirable for members to make that decision accordingly. Does that sound fair?
Yes, very fair.
Yeah.
Yes,
very fair, Chair.
It would be remiss of me to say, because we have, I know with a lot of the democratic services managers, heads of democratic services, they have actually, there's been a lot of discussion about, as Councillor Smith said, it's about the councillor and trying to attract councillors. And I think that's the thing, is in terms of if, the salaries aren't realigned or something, there's the risk in future that you're not attracting people to the role. It is a paid position at the end of the day. So said, it would be remiss of me not to mention that, but that is some of the purpose of the panel, is really, if you look at their report, last year's report, there's a lot in there. There's allowances for caring, for carers, there's allowances for various aspects, for childcare, and for if you're caring for a family member. And this is the thing, they are trying to make it a lot easier for people to take on that role, because for a lot of them it is an additional role. It's not their full-time job. It is an additional role in addition to their full-time job. So it is about the attraction and making it so that we do get people to stand in the local authorities.
Absolutely, and I think it's the same theme as the last agenda item, and it's about being flexible, isn't it? We in the last agenda item, we talked a lot about working members, how that impacts on your time constraints. Now, maybe on the reverse, if you don't work, that can impact in financial matters, and we don't want to preclude anyone who's who could suffer hardship. I think so. I think that's quite a nice way of putting it. And I haven't got any more comments. If no members have, we'll move on. In fact, that's it. In fact, isn't it? That's the.
Yes, Chair.
Yep. Wonderful. I'm not aware of any urgent items.
No, Chair.
So all that leaves me to do is thank you once again for your attendance and your contributions. Thank you, Rachel, for your help and proceedings. Yeah. And
thank you, Rachel.
Wish you a very pleasant rest of your day. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye now.
Bye all. Bye.